Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sim Experience Alwin BMW Racing Cup Round 6 coming to you live from Imola. Unfortunately, we have lots of technical issues with internet problems causing some of the drivers not being able to join tonight. But we are here tonight, we are live, we are currently only joined, I think, by 9 drivers on the circuit, so it's going to be a little bit quiet. But round 6 coming up, so the drivers are heading out shortly for qualifying. Just to let you know what the schedule is for the season. So this is round 6 from Imola, and we'll be following this with round 7 from Road Atlanta, then round 8, the final round at Donington Park. And for those that aren't aware, the point system, this is the point system. I will not run through the complete system, but basically first to second there's 2-point difference, second to third a 2-point difference, and then from there all the way down to the final place, which is 30th place, it drops 1 point per place. So extremely close point system. This should keep the drivers all nice and close. And then of course just car that we are driving, so we are driving the BMW M2 CS Cup. It's a 3-litre inline 6 4-valve engine, twin turbo. It's a BMW specific turbo system. It has between 280 to 365 brake horsepower depending on what region in the world it's in, depending on the balance of performance. It is a 6-piston fixed caliper brake system, special Michelin tires made for this car. It's a rear wheel drive with its own dynamic stability control, which has ABS, traction control, everything all built into one. That's all bundled with the car. And it has a 7-speed gearbox, but the gears are extremely long, so don't expect the drivers to use more than 5th. There might be the occasion when they might touch 6th, but the gears are fixed, and 7th gear I think is meant for high-speed test runs or something, because they're never likely to ever use it. And then just looking at our championship standings, so currently we have Jason Underwood in first place from Chris Collison and Timo Smit, Jean-Louis Dutoy, Richard Cilliers, Adrian Nell, Brandon Roberts, Willem Steen, Jan-Ray Dippenaar, Monet Dutoy, Hilton Nickerson, Rian van der Westhuizen, Julian Brains, Andre Hildebrandt and Peter Murray. And finally our team standings, we have Team Harder Racing currently topping the team's championship from Top Tech IT with Tuku Life, then PZN Panel Beaters. That's our top 3, and I'm going to leave it there. And good evening, Sean. I hear you've joined again.
Yes, hi Dennis. Nice to be here. Pity there's a small field, relatively 9. We were, I think, up to 10, but in qualifying now, only 8 cars around the circuit at the moment. And they're still on an outlap. It's quite a long lap. It's 4.9 kilometers at Imola. It has 21 corners, although some of them are just high-speed sweeps, which I don't think the drivers will consider to be corners. But nonetheless, it takes about, on a quick lap, it'll be 1:58 something. So we'll see how many people get into the 1 minute 58s. But yes, on paper it looks as though it's not that busy. But if you go around with one of the drivers, it's actually a very busy circuit. You kept at it all the time.
Yeah, so at the moment not a lot of guys here. I'm not sure where the rest of the guys are. Some guys have been coming and going. I know some guys having technical issues with the internet because of the load shedding. So I guess certain areas are affected more, and that's creating connection issues. I've had connection issues most of the day, but seems like the latter half of the day everything's been fine, but perhaps others are now having the issue I had this morning. So hopefully more drivers will join, but for now we just have to have a smaller field, and good luck to the guys that managed to make it.
Yeah, just to give you a very quick idea of what the speeds, well, the 9 cars that I just took a snip at the end of the free practice, I think there were 2 guys that managed to get up to 230 kilometers an hour, and the other 7 all had a fastest speed of 229. So within 1 kilometer of an hour are all 9 competitors. And at that stage, the quickest lap was Adrian with a 1:58.34. Second was Chris Collison, Team Harder Racing, with a 1:58.7. So they quite running at the speeds that I could find on the internet. I actually found a simulated quick lap. So this is really in line with that simulated quick lap.
Alright, so currently in provisional pole we have Chris Collison. He's been the pace setter for most of the week, but as you say, Alwin has come in and got a quicker time, but his previous lap, it looks like in the middle sector he lost it. He went off track, I guess. So we're just going to watch him here, see how his first sector pans out, and then we can see if we find the next driver. But currently Chris Collison in provisional pole from Yandre Dippenaar, then Simone Bedefuko, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, then Peter Murray, Adrian Nell, Jason Underwood, Richard Cilliers, Julian Brains, and Willem Steen. This would probably be the shortest field or smallest field we've had in the series. We're usually having about 20 drivers, so tonight only 9 drivers. So hopefully a few more drivers will join before the qualifying is over, so 9 minutes to go. It's cutting it fine.
Yeah, and as I said, because it's such a long circuit with 2 minutes just to get around, and if you're still warming up, it's taking you more than 2 minutes. So if you were to get out now, less 2 minutes, that leaves you with 7 minutes. That means you might get 3, if you're lucky, a 4th lap in. Adrian just showing us there that part of the curbing is quite vicious. So if you take too much of the curb, it actually unsettles the car completely. So curbing to be treated, I think, with respect. Specifically that corner, and I'll need to find my bearings again as to where he is. I think he's at Revatsa at the moment. So yeah, there's the pit lane exit. So he's coming down the main straight, which, believe it or not, the main straight has 2 corners, turn 20 and 21. Turn 20 is just after the exit off the circuit, and turn 21 is slightly more to the right, is just as you cross the finish line before they get through. In my opinion, the first true corner used to be a high-speed sweep, and we all know what happened in 1994, Tamburello, and subsequently it's been changed into a chicane, which makes up turn 2, 3, and 4, and reduces the speed quite dramatically.
Jason Underwood currently on a good lap, fastest first sector, a slightly slower middle sector. Let's see if he can, I imagine he'll at least jump up to, well, he's still already in seconds, he'll probably improve, but he might get a good final sector and be able to take provisional pole.
Just keep in mind he had a 1:59.4 the last time, and we'll see how this gets him going this time around. A little bit wide out of that corner.
I think he lost a bit of drive because of that.
Yeah.
Might see a yellow final sector. Coming across the line. Does his time improve? It does, a 58.993. So up to second, 0.068 behind. So that was close. If it wasn't for that, I guess that he made a mistake in the final corner, but still managed to get a fast, well, the fastest final sector. But if he had a decent exit there and he had a good middle sector, he would have had a much better lap time.
Yeah. And just watching him going over the curbs there as well, the car actually comes, the one side of the car comes up as high as a male dog cocking a leg. So I think it's a fine balance as to just touching the curbs and using too much of the curbing to actually get around the corner.
Right, we're now watching Yandre Dippenaar, who's just started his lap. He's in the first sector. Ran slightly wide there. Just looking at the YouTube comments, we have several comments. Good evening, everyone. And unfortunately, some of the comments are from Hilton. He's having technical difficulties with the server, so he won't be joining tonight. Jean Vidatoy also having issues with his internet tonight, so also can't join tonight. So sadly, 2 drivers having issues. We have Wade Roberts saying good luck. So I guess that is Brandon Roberts' son. So good evening, Wade. I'm not sure where Brandon is. He was in earlier. He's not currently in, so hopefully he will join shortly.
Adrian must have abandoned the lap that he was on because he hasn't completed a lap as yet.
Yes. We'll jump to him in a moment. At the moment it's showing that he's on track but just hasn't put up a time yet. So Yandre and I in the final sector. Let's see what his time is like. I'm sure this is going to put him up in about 3rd place. If he can get a decent final sector.
He has to beat a 1:59.67.
Yeah, he's I think done a 59 dead or maybe even a 58.9 in practice, so I know he can do it. This Collison has just done a 58.4 off camera as well. And Yandre, let's see what his time will be. It is a 59.556, so only just flipping third place there.
That Simone's surname looks as though it's should be on a pizza menu, and probably excuse me for saying so. But yeah.
And we see Julian Brains now on his lap, his personal best in the first second. Now Julian, I believe, was working at the Formula E races today in Cape Town, so thankfully able to still get back and make the sim racing. Ooh, there we go.
You've lost the back end twice and on the grass.
Let's go have a look at another driver then. As we see Peter Murray coming up, I believe he'll now go on to a new lap, so let's see if he can get in a decent lap. Perhaps we can do a onboard with Peter. He did his personal best in the final sector. Let's see how he does while we're watching him. All eyes are on Peter at the moment.
What I like about this circuit is there are many straight pieces, and then you get busy through a lot of chicanes / S's, and then you have a lot of recovery time again. So I think pace is not paramount, but when you get to the corners, you've got to be through them smooth and quickly to actually make them work.
That corner that Peter just went through now, you can take it in second or in third. I always found taking it in third, going slightly wide, coming back, you actually get low revs in third, but it seems to pull away nicer that way without having to shift as you're going up the hill. It seems to gain a bit more momentum that way.
It was Penatella, and the next one is Aqua Minerale, which is a two-part corner, turn 11 and 12.
You don't want to take it like that.
Yeah. So.
All right, let's go to Adrian. He's just set the fastest first sector and the fastest middle sector as well. Let's see if he can complete it.
He's got to beat his own best in practice, a 58.3. That's what he managed in practice.
So currently a 58.458 from Chris Collison. So they are the two pace setters.
Yeah, by quite a long way actually.
A 58.8 only by Jason Underwood. So yeah, that's 3.5 tenths that are ahead of Jason.
All-time best sector 2 by Adrian. Personal best for sector 1 for him. So I think he's on a good lap. He's just got to get it over the finish line.
Should be a low 58.
It is
second, a 58.4. That's pretty close. Didn't quite get the final sector.
Yeah, about 0.3 of a second he was slower than Chris Collison's time in sector 3. So that's where the difference comes in. And the gap only 0.021 between Chris and Adrian. So expect a nice race between the two of them. But another 58 by Jason. So we've got 3 riders that are in the 1 minute 58s, which makes it quite interesting.
Yes, so it's a small field, but the times are pretty close between the top guys, so it could make for a very exciting race, and it's certainly not the easiest of tracks to pass on. At least the guys in tonight will be getting good points all for the championship, so that's going to bode well. Of course, our championship does allow the drivers to drop their worst 4 rounds, so if they are affected by load shedding tonight, then this could be one of their dropped rounds, because they'll obviously get no points for tonight. So we'll see how that pans out as the course of the season goes forward.
Richard is in 5th in the time that he's set up until now, and we've only got a minute left in qualifying. So I'm just trying to see where he is on the circuit. For me specifically, difficult to identify where the drivers are, because so many of the corners look the same as other corners around the circuit.
So Brandon's having a problem with his game by the sounds of it. Just looking at the comments in YouTube. So all sorts of problems tonight. Unfortunately, it's narrowed our field quite a lot.
Yeah, it's less than half of what we used to.
So 8 drivers at the moment. As you see Richard sliding around the final corner, getting through there nice and sideways. So Chris Collison is in the pits at the moment. He won't be improving. Adrian now is on track. We're going to jump to him in a moment as we see Richard cross the line. I think he's lost the lap because he doesn't have a middle sector. Adrian is on a lap. Perhaps we can do a onboard lap since this is an attacking lap. He's just at the fastest first sector. So he's 2/10 up. That's 2/10 up on Chris Collison's time, not on his own time. He did have the fastest first and middle sector, but he unfortunately had a slow final sector. So let's see if he can bring it home this time. Oh, I think he might have lost a bit there. I'm not sure if the lap will be abandoned. Looks like it is. So the last driver to have a go at it is Jason Underwood. As we see him getting a bit sideways there, someone I think just joined the server. That's why we have a bit of a stutter. So currently we have Chris Collison from Andrea Null, then Jason Underwood, then Yandre Dippenaar, then Simone Budafuka, then Richard Cillier, then Julian Brains, Willem Steyn, and Peter Marais.
See what Jason does to change his times, if at all.
I think he'll improve slightly, but I'm not sure if he's going to challenge, but he'll get up probably within 2/10 of the front two.
Looks as though he's probably the last.
He didn't improve. All right.
Circuit.
Well, let's jump to a quick ad break and then be back shortly for race 1. Alright, welcome back everybody. We are now live for race 1 of the Alwin BMW Racing Cup, round 6, coming to you live from Emilia Romagna in Italy. I think I've got that wrong. But 25-minute race 1 about to start. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, and I'm joined once again by Sean Woodgate.
Good evening everybody.
Good evening Sean. Perhaps you could talk us through the grid as I start that. Hopefully I can get that up and running in a moment. Let's try that. It should hopefully pop up now. I've got the wrong button pressed. Something's not happening here.
Otherwise I'll just take it out of what I think is qualifying.
Right, let me just run it here. It should now work. Alright, we can have our starting order.
Right, Chris Collison is out there first in the team harder racing. Adrian Nell in P2, the midnight code car. Third is Jason Underwood, and fourth is Jandre de Bernard. Fifth, Simone Butafuoco. Richard Stillier, number 101 PZM panel beaters, is sixth. Julian Brains, number 333, is seventh. And Willem Stein, Top Tech IT, takes up the next position in eighth. And Peter Murray, PZN Racing, that big number 420 on the side, he takes up the ninth position. It's going to make life simple for us when we go to race 2 to reverse the grid, because we'll reverse all as the points. Jason Underwood leads by about 4 points, or all of 4 points, everything to go for Chris Collison in second, 4 points behind. Then it's Timo Smit, who's not here tonight. Chandra de Toy, I don't think he's here either.
Yeah.
Richard still here. Adrian Nell, Brandon Robert, Willem Stein, Jandre de Bernard, and the top 10 rounded off by Mornay de Toy.
And of course, the team championship, we have Team Harder Racing topping the time, so they're doing very well. And of course, they're in first and third place at the moment, so the challenge will be coming from Midnight Code and from PZN Panel Beaters tonight.
So it's nice. Team Harder have 1, 2, 3 drivers in the top 5, so they first, third, and fifth. Although they're two different teams, it's the Team Harder Racing guys that are first and third, and the Team Harder Okuri Simone Butafuoco is in fifth position.
Right, the drivers will now take up their positions on the grid. As we see everyone just weaving to try and generate a little bit of tire temperature. Hopefully the changeover between race 1 and race 2 will have some more drivers joining, as we usually have a change of load shedding schedule at about 8 o'clock, so there might be a few drivers join for race 2, and hopefully Brandon will be able to get over his problems, so fingers crossed. As we see one of the PZN drivers, I believe that's Richard Cillier in the second of the PZN cars, now taking up his slot. Right, and they're away.
Right, racing at last, even though it's only with a grid of 9. But interesting track that makes up Imola. We were just having a chat while they were out in qualifying. Officially, there are 21 corners, but I think from a driver perspective, you won't regard some of them as actual corners because they just happen to be high-speed streets. And already we see Adrian attacking Chris Collison, or somebody off in the background there as he made it back. Certainly some of the two quicker drivers in the 158s. So certainly within 25 minutes, they're going to complete enough laps that I think they're going to separate them from the rest of the field. Leaving enough room there for Adrian now to go up on the inside. And let's wait and see if that's going to, the curve is to the right. So Chris has the racing line, but the next one's left. So Chris actually has to get out and block it, but I think he's run too wide, and that's going to let Adrian through if he has the momentum. The next corner is a right-hander again, so Chris is better placed, but you have to think in this track so far ahead as to where you are, but I think some of it you can't control, and if you get one exit wrong, it just makes it bad for the next 2 or 3 corners, and you've got to regroup and actually get it running again. The gluing there is quite vicious, and I see one car actually going beyond all of the lines. You said they do have a couple of, the system does allow them, I think it's 5, and then it might just give them a penalty of some description. I don't know what mistake Adrian made, but all of a sudden there's a big gap between Chris and Adrian now.
Yeah, definitely coming under threat at the moment.
That'll be from Jason Underwood, who's the teammate of Chris Collison, so he's giving him a big favour. Somebody going off for a strange reason there on a straight piece of the circuit, going to the extreme right and then bringing it back again.
Right, as we now go on board with Jason Underwood attacking Adrian now. Chris is getting away slightly now. Jason having a look up the inside. He's going for it. Nice bit of space. Ooh, nice bit of space given there, just enough. Leaning on each other. That's about as good as it gets. Just giving enough. Hard racing there between them.
Yeah, with 22.5 minutes to go, you don't want to actually be out of the race while you as well placed as what these drivers are now. And right behind them, Jandre Dippenaar from PZN Panel Beaters, he might actually be the dog that runs away with the bone. Because, and there's a pass for second. So Jason passes Adrian and gets up into second, and that'll be good news for Chris Collison.
I'm sure there's a bit of team pride there. Two teams fighting very, very difficult, very, very hard amongst each other.
Yeah, and Jandre and Richard, of course, in the PZN panel beater cars in 4th and 5th. You can see their colours quite distinct behind Adrian now in the red car. So still tightly bunched, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th position. Then a little bit of a gap to Julian Brains and Simone. And then it's Peter Marais and Willem Steyn.
And of course, right behind these guys, we've got Jandre Dippenaar and Richard Cillier. They're not far behind. The more that these guys are fighting it out, the more we have the others hanging in there. And in actual fact, we have Jandre Dippenaar now on the attack as well.
But that's a pity we don't have a replay button. But the exit of that last corner, it appeared to me that Adrian was battling with the steering, because I don't think the car actually got to do what he intended it to do. And that meant that he actually lost a bit of distance to Jason Underwood as well. So all going in favor of the Team Harder Racing guys, because Adrian seems to be having a bit of problems. Maybe it was just a driver error, I don't know. But certainly on what we could see visually, he did battle with the car coming out of that corner. And I think that must have been somewhere around about between what's known as turn 14, 15, Curvo, Fausto Grissini, and Ravazza. He had a bit of a problem there. Ravazza is the two corners that make up the last two corners of the circuit in theory, but not the last two corners by number, because the straight has a corner turn 20 before you get to the start finish line as well still. So the straight theoretically isn't straight.
So Julian Brain's currently having a good race as well. He's in a mix of a nice battle further back.
Yeah, they're very, very close. Team number 333, Julian, he's holding on for dear life in that battle. And the one who's having a good race, Chris Collison, I think is twofold, because he's had a demon start and his teammate has been pressurizing Adrian now.
Adrian's just set the fastest first sector, so maybe he's now coming back, but he's got Jason Underwood right behind him at the moment, so perhaps we should go have a look there and just see what's happening. So let's jump to Jason and see. Jason currently challenging Adrian. They've pulled away from 4th and 5th.
Yeah, mistake from the commentator. I missed the pass completely where Adrian took the position back. I was looking down at the PZN panel beaters, cars, numbers and drivers, and then I saw Adrian pop up into second. And so there's been a change to 2nd and 3rd and a change back again. So all back. So whatever I was saying about Adrian has come to naught. Maybe he sorted it out. Maybe it was just an error on that corner. But certainly he's caught up to Jason and passed him and taken second position. But he now finds himself 2.5 seconds behind the race leader, Chris Collison, number 22, the Team Harder Racing car.
Right, let's see if he can catch, because of course Chris is one of the fastest guys, so I'm sure the amount that he'll be catching will be very minuscule per lap. Chris just did a 59.4 on the last lap.
But the bit of the circuit they're going through in now, the left and the right, is the Tamburello curve. It used to be a one continuous sweep, but of course on the 1st of May 1994, Ayrton Senna lost his life there. Still a lot of theories as to it, but from what I could do my research, it would appear that the steering wheel shaft broke. At those days they were running the Williams FW16, which was a Renault 3.5 litre V10, and certainly not a great moment. The whole weekend wasn't a great moment in motorsport, but yeah, the Tamburello curve redesigned, no longer a high-speed sweep. It is now a chicane that makes up turn 2, 3 and 4. They go into turn 2 in 3rd gear, they leave it in 3rd gear, and on the exit of turn 4, they're leaving Tamburello, they change to 4th gear again.
Yeah, my understanding of that incident, which has actually had a big impact on motorsport, was that they welded the steering shaft, and it's something to do with that was under scrutiny, and they weren't sure if that had caused it. They never ever proved it, so Williams were found innocent, but yeah, there are lots of people that will say otherwise. But that's definitely changed the way that the engineering happens in motorsport, and that's why we have all these advancements in motorsport at the moment. It's because of these unfortunate incidents that bring light to the practices that are made.
Yeah, it is the leading edge of motorsport, and sometimes things don't go as planned. There is also the theory that the pace car, remember they were under a pace car lap, and the pace car was so slow that the tires cooled down completely, which reduced the ride height of the cars, and going into Tamburello, the bottom of the skid plate actually touched. So for that instance, the rear wheels weren't on the road. There's been a change second and third again, as I see them come past us. Adrian back into third, and I've missed that the second time. But there's also that story that when the skid tray touched, that the rear wheels, and they changed back again, second and third. I'm interrupting myself. That also affected the grip. In fact, it meant there was almost no grip on the rear tires for that instant, and it was critical going into Tamburello, which was a high-speed sweep, that you actually had good grip on the rear tires. And but yes, and also then at that stage he would have survived the accident if it were not for the right front wheel coming off and causing the damage to him personally, which took his life. But yeah, a great, whether you liked his style or whatever, he was a great driver, was Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, I think Senna and Schumacher are regarded by many as the two greatest all-time drivers, and then I think a lot of people would debate who was the greatest, but they definitely were two of the best in their eras.
Julian having a bit of a moment there chasing Simone, but he was right up the back end of Simone's car and then made a mistake, and he gave up distance. Here's Jason on Adrian Nel. The gap between them is only 0.8 of a second, so everything to fight for and try and catch up. But the race leader Chris Collison is 3 seconds ahead of Adrian Nel. You can see him way in the distance in front of the red car. The red car, the midnight code number 15 of Adrian Nel, that's in second position, and he has Jason Underwood, the Team Harder Racing number 101, right behind him. Behind him, the two PZN panel beaters cars, number 9, Jandre de Penaar, and number 101, Richard still here. So second, fourth, fifth is a great battle running past the finishing line now.
A very challenging track this. You need to be sort of pinpoint accurate and smooth to get the right times. And it looks like some of the guys just getting a little bit too sideways and losing a bit of momentum at the wrong time, taking too much curb, bouncing over the chicanes. It's very difficult to catch back up once you've lost a little bit of time like that. Speaking of which,
team orders.
Jandre de Penaar taking too much curb there and getting all sideways under threat. It is his teammate, so I'm not sure if there's team orders or if Richard will be a bit more cautious, but having a look here, Jandre going very defensive. They're going to be slowing each other down.
No, that'll mean that Simone will be able to get back at them. So we'll have to see if that's going to happen. The other corner worth mentioning, and it seems to get forgotten, is because it happened the day before, was Roland Ratzenberger.
Yes.
It was a qualifying session. He'd actually had a moment, from what I could gather, at Tosa, which caused damage to his wing, and then on the next lap at what is now known as the Villeneuve curve, the wing actually came off and he didn't have downforce on the front wheels, and he was also he died during the qualifying session the day before Ayrton Senna's accident. And the question that probably very few people would be able to answer, and I'll just leave it for a while before I give the answer to it, is what make of car was Roland Ratzenberger driving?
I was actually about to ask that, because in my mind I was thinking it was a Sauber, but I don't think it was a Sauber. I think it was, I don't think which one it was.
Which, had I not read it, I wouldn't have known it at all either. But yeah, interesting. But what's happened on the circuit in the meantime? Is that Simone catching up with Richard Slier? I think it is.
It is, yes.
He's been, we have mentioned that Richard's been not as smooth as what he could be, and that means that Simone has caught up to him and they're on the front straight. So it's, as I said, it's not a straight. Here it goes right for the first time, and then it goes a slight curve to the left, which is here just after the finish line. And then the chicane that you'll find is turn 2, 3, and 4, which is the Tamburello curve, which is here now. and then it has a straight section again after Tamburello. You can just imagine that being a continuous sweep. Then there's a straight section before they go into turn 5, which is Villeneuve, which is also a left-right, turn 5 and 6. So yeah, they go through that now, and then it's the very difficult Tosa. They go in 4th, 3rd, some guys go to 2nd, and on the exit into 3rd again. So this is Tosa. It's not quite a hairpin, but close to it. Then there's sort of a gradual sweep to the right before they come to a 90 left, but also quite a high-speed 90 left, which is Piratella. So here's the sweep to the right. You go under that bridge there, and then the left, which is also goes into its 3rd gear and out of its 4th gear. It's turn 9 as Piratella, and then turn 10 is also a continuous sweep to the left, and then turns 11, 12, and 13 is the Aqua Minerale, and that is a very interesting, well-known piece of circuit as well. I think quite daunting to drive. It's a right and left as they get through it, and then the straight section through under the bridge before they get through Curva Fausto Grissini, and that is a right-left combination. And then there's also not a dead straight piece, but they call it a curve, turn 16 they call it. It curves to the left slightly, you can see it there, not much of a curve, before they get through under the bridge again, which is called turn 17. It's slightly to the right. Then Rivazza, which is turn 18 and 19, is 90 degree left again, and then they'll be on their way past the paddock to complete another lap. And that's in high-speed voice, a circuit around Imola.
We see Adrian now also pretty close up behind Jason Underwood, 6/10 behind, just under 6/10 now.
If you want to look, the last lap, Adrian did a 2:01.5 compared to Jason's 2:0.1. So that's 1.4 seconds slower. So that would explain that the gap between them has stretched slightly. But Chris Collison is off to the sunset, a 2.3 second lead ahead of his teammate, and 10 minutes, 20 seconds to go in this race. Adrian's not giving up though. He's only 0.4 of a second now behind. So this is where the battle has been. It's changed, I think, 4 times already in this race, which has made it very, very nice to watch. I missed 2 of them. Well done, Sean. Jason Underwood and Adrian Nell as they get past now, certainly for tight racing.
And behind us, we got another, behind them, we have another battle brewing at the back with the PZN drivers. They are definitely under attack at the moment from each other, as well as from Simone, who's right behind them.
That's almost better than the battle for 2nd and 3rd, is in fact 4th, 5th, and 6th. Jandre de Pinaar number 9, Richard Sillier number 101, and Simone Botafogo, the Team Auto Goody driver, number 86. So here we see it from Simone's car, and that's the number 86 car, and he's trying his best to get at those PZN panel beaters guys. They're a lot closer than they were previously. That's Richard Sillier has caught up to Jandre. We did say that Richard was loose out of 1 or 2 corners and lost a bit of distance. But there, as I just say that, Jandre makes the mistake and gets Richard to catch up right to him again.
Simone is sitting right behind them, looking pretty, just waiting for them to make the mistake so they can get past.
That corner there reminds me of Cape Town, except it's the other way around, if I remember, in that the cars come so close to the barrier in passing you that you can't actually hang a lap scoring monitor. In the old days, we used to having a board down and switch the times over. Some people actually used to write them in chalk. That you couldn't actually do that in Cape Town because it was low, and the cars came right past you, so they drive that thing right out of your hands. So you'd hold it up in the air, sort of behind the barrier, and if they could read it, then good luck to them.
Right, so lots of action happening here. Perhaps we can jump to the battle at the front in a moment as well, because I see that's a 3/10 between Adrian and Jason.
For some reason, the system hasn't given a last lap time for Adrian, but he only finds himself 0.24 now behind Jason Underwood, and he has the fastest lap of the race at a 1:59.3, which is 1/10 quicker than Chris Collison and 3/10 quicker, give or take, quicker than Jason Underwood.
If he doesn't have a time shown, then he's probably had a penalty. well, not a penalty, but a points deduction from a cut. He went off track possibly, so therefore doesn't register a sector and therefore the time.
Okay, so that's sort of a yellow flag, well, not a yellow flag, a yellow card in soccer is, don't do that again or you're going to be sent off.
Yes.
As I said, some of these curbs are more forgiving than others, but some of them are quite harsh. There's where rubbing is racing. Is that Simone getting past?
It looks like possibly.
Side. Yeah, he's on the wrong side, but who knows what happens if he forces the guy too wide, then he might be there and he does it. Now the cutback, no, it's not going to happen. Simone takes the position on Richard Celia for now.
Nicely done.
Cool.
That was pretty clean and nice and close.
There was a light touch to it, but that's nothing harsh about that at all. Now it's just going to be whether Richard Celia has good speed and car placement down the straight for Tamburello, which he does because Tamburello's left, right, left. Can you just get it right? Yes, it's left, right, left. So he's got to be right on, but Simone holds on for dear life.
And defends as well, so now he moves over back to the race line.
And that means Jandre has now 1.7 seconds between himself and Simone because these two have been slowing each other up, and Jandre in fourth has been able to get away from them.
Richard trying to square off the corner a bit and get a bit more momentum, but Simone was wise to it and made sure he took the tighter line and just held him up.
Yeah. Otherwise known as trying to sell him a dummy, which was not bought. And then also to see the difference that Simone brakes just a fraction later. You see the car sort of lurch forward, but that also might indicate that he's on a better racing line than what Richard is, and Richard has to actually brake fractionally earlier, which slows you down going into the corner. And I'm no racing driver, but I've been told by many that you slow in to be fast out, and it looks like Simone got that right this time.
Yeah, slow and fast out is usually the better choice. Usually benefits you on straights. But definitely diving in on the brakes can help when you're trying to make a pass, but then you need to be able to square the corner off and stop the car behind getting the slow and fast out privilege, or benefit I should say.
Yeah, you've got to put your car in the way, but also taking into account you've got to be actually fully ahead of the car when you move over. But one more lap completed, and certainly this is where the race is, and they now way distance from Jandre, Simone are a long way ahead of Julian Brains. So, Simone, Richard have a lot of catching up to do.
Simone runs off there. That's Richard past. Gifted the place.
Yeah, so that was a mistake by both of them, and Simone probably the bigger mistake of the two. But here's the fight for second and third again. Jason Underwood is ahead of Adrian now, but Adrian's not letting him get away either. So this is for second and third. And Chris Collison, let's have a look. The last lap by Chris was a 59.6 and a 59.6 by Adrian as well, give or take a thousandth of a second. Now there's pushing Jason a little bit wider than I think Jason would have liked. But you've got to finish the race first to be able to score the points. And I think, as you said, in the run-up to the start, it's only 1 or 2 points, even though it's second and third. So I'd rather finish and get the points in the lesser position than not finish at all.
Yes. Right, Jason sitting right there with him at the moment. Of course, 3.5 minutes to go.
Out of the corner, looking back from Adrian's car, you could see that Jason had actually got all of the car beyond the solid white line, and that's when we say maybe the software gives you just a warning. There he cuts with one side of the car again now, but not the whole car beyond the solid white line. So the software, I think, is quite strict. You did say how many chances are they given in a race?
It's 5 points, so it's depending on how you cut, depends on how many points you get. If you go flat out across the chicane, then they give you, I think, a 1.5 or something penalty, but if it's just a light cut, it'll be point something.
So Adrian at this stage looks as though he's well placed for second. Is he going to have the nose chopped off? No. They give each other just enough room. which is good middle of the road racing, which is just enough room. Adrian's got to do all the hard work to get past Jason.
Here he comes up the inside. I think Jason's going to have him covered. Oh, that's not going to go down well.
No, Jason, I think, had him covered too well. And there was just a hard touch, and Jason loses the next position. And it'll be Richard and Simone up with him pretty soon. So here they come along, racing as hard as they can. And that number one looks quite vulnerable, or it did for a while. He seems to have recovered the car now. And we have 2 minutes to go.
Yes, I think that will give him a stronger position for race 2. Chris is definitely not going to be challenged for this race victory, but I think Adrian might have a little bit of a complaint thrown at him by Jason towards the stewards afterwards, so the stewards I'm sure will have something to look at.
Overhead view will be very interesting.
Yes.
I think Jason is, well, just my opinion, and I never mean any harm when I say things, I think he's actually overdriving the car a little bit at the moment, and that means that he's losing out to Jandre, and Jandre is more than a second ahead of him, but Jandre is 6 seconds behind Adrian. So I think this is the way it'll finish. Chris Collison, Adrian L, and Jandre de Penard will be on the podium for race 1 at Imola tonight.
Chris Collison is way out ahead at the moment. But I'll just show him, since we don't see much of the leaders if they have a big gap.
This will be the last lap. And just if anybody was still thinking about it, Roland Ratzenberger was driving a Simtek. Can anybody still remember the Simtek?
Yes, I
couldn't.
Wasn't that the team that had the MTV sponsor?
They actually brought that team together very quickly and quite successfully. They were running a Ford 3.5 litre V10, whereas Ayrton was running a Renault 3.5 litre V10. So I saw some of the cars in reading the articles also were running 3.5 litre V8s. So shows you that not all the cars were identical.
So Jason, having been at the fight for second place, is now struggling to keep Richard at bay. So Richard's all over him at the moment.
Yeah, and this being the last lap, it certainly is worth holding on to. I think we've, the race leader, no, we haven't seen him complete yet, the lap, but certainly Jason has Richard Sillier all over him, quarter of a second behind, and quarter of a second in racing, in tin-top racing, is not very much. It just, as we've seen, you make the slightest mistake on the curbing or in or out of a corner, and that might be the position gone because your competitor behind you can get his car better positioned, potentially.
The problem that Jason could also have is having been knocked off, or having I say knocked off, I shouldn't say that, having contact and having been off, he might have either damage or dirt on his tires might not be up to full operating temperature, so that's also maybe why he's possibly struggling. As we see, one of the cars that have pulled over there, I believe that was Simone, because he is a lap down at the moment, so he's pulled over. I'm not sure if he's run out of petrol maybe, or run out of fuel.
Stein is also DNF, and Simone is P8, so I'm not sure you'll be classified. Is this the finish line?
Yes, Chris takes the victory. Adrian second. Jandre de Penard will then take third from Jason Underwood, who recovered to a 4th place. Richard will finish 5th. Julian Brains will take 6th place in the end. Peter Murray, who's just been minding his own business at the back, struggling along, but managing to stay in the race, will take 7th place in the end, due to Willem Steyn getting a DNF.
What happens to the reverse grid with Simone and Willem?
The guys that don't finish don't get reversed. So now we will only reverse the top 7.
So it'll be Peter in pole.
Yes, Peter will be in pole, Simone will start 8th, and Willem will start 9th. So we're going to jump to a ad break, reset the grid, and we'll be back probably in about 5 minutes for race 2. So I'll see you shortly.
Until then.
Alright, welcome back everyone. We are joined live for race 2 from Imola for the Alwin BMW Racing Cup, round 6, race 2. Race 2, another 25-minute race. As the drivers now form on the grid, they will now do a rolling start for race 2. It is a top 10 reverse grid usually, but only the drivers that finish the race can be reversed. So that is the top 7 from race 1. So Chris Carlson will start 7th tonight. Adrian Nell in 6th place, Yonder Dippenaar will be 5th. In fact, we'll go through the grid in a moment. And just to let everyone know what the schedule is for the rest of the season. So tonight, of course, is Imola. Next week, hopefully next week, we will have Road Atlanta. And for the final round, we will be at Donington Park. Alright, so we can go through our starting order in a moment when I get to it. I have that up there, it's not meant to be up there. Let's do this, sorry. Right, so Peter Maria will form up in pole position from Julian Brains, Richard Cillier in 3rd and Jason Underwood in 4th. In 5th place we have Yandre Dippenaar. In 6th place Adrian Nell. 7th place Chris Collison, our race 1 winner, and Simone Butefuco in 8th place. In 9th place we have Brandon Roberts joining, thankfully being able to rejoin, and Andre Hildebrandt able to join for race 2. I presume wasn't available for race 1 due to load shedding. Alright, so the drivers now driving around to prepare for race 2 start, which of course is a rolling start. And just to remind everyone, this championship is brought to us once again by Alwin Automotive Glass, so you can head over to www.alwin.co.za if you have any automotive glass requirements. That could be for canopies, it can be for cars, anything you can think of, they can provide it. You can give Hilker a call and I'm sure you can source whatever you need, or provide whatever you need by making it. Alright, so the drivers now coming around sector 2. I think they're still in the middle of sector 2, starting sector 3. Seem to have lost the connection to the other PC.
Visuals, thank goodness, are still up. For a moment we had a look there at car number 1, Jason Underwood, as they are getting to the line, and it is, this is not a straight, it has 2 corners in it, but nonetheless the straight bit that one now. There's the start finish line coming up to them, and they are racing. Peter Maria in the orange car out in the lead, and let's see if he can hold the PZN trucking car ahead as they get to Tamburello, and certainly it looks as though he has done so. And the Team High Revolution racing car of Julian Brains just there with him, as is the PZN panel beaters car of Richard Cillier. But also keeping in mind that this is a 25-minute race, so it's not won on lap 1, and it certainly can be lost on lap 1. So everybody, I think, giving the field a chance to settle down. And while they're busy doing that, Peter Maria's got half a car length ahead of Julian Brains at this stage, and Richard Cillier from PZN panel beaters. He's got, between him and his teammate, he's got Jason Underwood, the Team Harder racing car, in 4th position. So Jason driving for all he's worth. And at the back of the field, I think at this stage, is Andre Hildebrandt, and he's the Top Tech IT Chrome number 72. So they joined late, and luckily didn't join for race number 1. And ahead of him, Brandon Robert, the Top Tech IT Otaku Life number 412. Spin there by the race leader was that Julian Brains. It must be, it's the only orange car in the race, so he lost it on the corner there, and from leader to all the way at the back, and he's not going very fast at this stage. So reading through the numbers, I'm not doing very well tonight. In the first race I missed 2 overtaking passes for 1st and 2nd, and now I've just watched the race, I've missed the race leader going off. So
well, I guess the camera wasn't the camera wasn't focused on him, so you're allowed this one.
I just saw all of a sudden he was at the back, and I know the car color is that bright orange with a very big number, so I couldn't miss it. This is Jason Underwood chasing Richard Sylvier, and this was the other way around, of course, in race 1. So Jason chasing the PZN panel beaters car number 101. Jason, of course, has number 1. I think he has 3 championships to his name. And Julian Brains, we just had a chat to him between races, and he leads, and he's about 0.6 of a second in the lead as he gets to Tamburello. If you can just imagine, that used to be a long continuous curve and no longer is so because of Ayrton Senna's accident, and they've slowed it right down. But here comes the PZN car on Julian Brains, and he makes it nice and clean. Even before they got to the corner, he had the pass made. Julian tries to chase him, but actually follows him into the gravel pit, and now he's on the wrong side of the road for the left-hander that comes up, which is, if this is Villeneuve, otherwise it is Tosa. A lot of cars going off there very wide, and you battle to get the car back into position if you're on the grass. The grip is not so good. What that has meant is that the Team Harder Racing guys, I think, have gotten almost together. There's a bit of nudge, wink, wink, say no more, and a nudge back again. So we'll see how that's going to finish. And those are Jandre Dippenaar and Jason Underwood. Jason Underwood ahead of Jandre Dippenaar, and Richard Sylvier, the PZN car, ahead of them. So interesting racing for second and third position. Not an inch asked or given at this stage of the race, and it still has 21.5 minutes to go. This is first, second, third, and fourth, as you see it in front. Well, the cars in front of number 86 are first, second, and third, and Simone is in fourth position.
I'm just quickly trying to get up our second PC because that's for some reason disconnected.
Right, you carry on with that. I'll carry on with this. Let me know when you want to rejoin, and certainly not a problem. Nice close racing for the first 4 positions, and then a little bit of a gap to Julian. Julian had that big moment on the grass, and as we all know, the grip is not very good on the grass. And long way behind is Chris Collison. Chris Collison a full second behind Julian, so Chris not having a great race in this one. I know that in the first race, Chris had a fairly good race and won it, so he's battling to make it up from the back of the field. Here's number 333, which is Julian Brains in 5th position, and if we were to look backwards from him, which we don't, he's off onto the gravel again, 3/4 of the car, so that'll slow him around. But a long way behind him is Chris Collison, as I said, a full second, and then behind that is Brandon Robert and Peter Murray. And
someone, I think it was Brandon Roberts.
Yes. Now I wonder how he managed to do that, because there comes Andre Hildebrandt, I think, was behind all of them. So I'm not sure that car is going to recover. So this is number 412. This is Brandon Robert, and he's now a long way behind the rest of the pack. And Andre Hildebrandt, the orange car, is also still running. Right, let's see where the race leaders are. Wait to see Richard Sylvier, the PZN panel beaters car. We look ahead, there he comes now. So it's still Richard Sylvier from Jason Underwood, Jandre Dippenaar, and then Simone Buttafuoco, and Julian Brains. Is he still behind them in the green and white car? You're looking at Jason Underwood now, pushing for, he's in second position, he's pushing Richard Sylvier. That's half a second between first and second place on the road. And a lot of, it looks almost straight, but then you have these curves which slow the cars down. And then there's some of the curves which are a bit more vicious, as that one, I think, caught Richard out a little bit, putting the car a little bit wider than I think he would have liked. But nonetheless, here's the pit lane exit where you get off the road, and then you have a right-hander to get into the straight, another bit of a right-hander. And as you can see the grid markings, then you know you're in front of the main grandstand. And here is the last corner actually on the track. It's just after the finish line, turn 21, but not much of a corner as it is. The other race leaders come up to Tamburello now, which is a left, right, left. They through Tamburello, then it's the straight bit before they get to Villeneuve. That's turn 5. Villeneuve is a left-right combination. You're down into 3rd gear for that, and then up into 4th gear for the short straight bit before you get to Tosa. Tosa will be down to 3rd gear. Some people down as far as 2nd gear and into 3rd gear on the exit of Tosa. So there's Tosa now. It'll be third gear out of there, and then a little bit after that, before the bridge, they'll be up into fourth gear, and then they'll slow down into third again for Piratella, which is a 90-degree left, although it's a forgiving 90 degrees. It's not, as you can see, it sweeps. It's almost like West Bank, whatever West Bank is called now, at the new Kailami. Leeuwkop, it's a double portion left-hand corner, very, very similar in design. But then there's the Aqua Minerale, which is turn 11 and 12. And then they've got the bridge, which here's Aqua Minerale coming up now. They've got two bridges actually after each other. And oh, there's a spin. Who was that? That was the second place.
That's Jason Underwood.
Jason, yeah. That means the PZN cars are passed, as is also Simone. Well, Simone very close, but he might be up into second, just depending, are they going left now? They are in fact going left, so that's, and he's got the whole car ahead. So Simone up into second ahead of Richard Sillier. So I'm not sure what mistake was made there, but certainly it was very, very abrupt, but it had a dire consequence.
It looks like he possibly just clipped Jason, spun him around, and then he decided to wait for Jason to come back. But Jason, I think, is a lot further back than he realized.
Yeah, Jason's in sixth position. So yeah, the front four are a very nice battle, and they stay with each other. Car number 86 is Simone Botafogo, and he's just holding on. It's 0.3 of a second between him and Jandre. Jandre with the PZN panel beat is car number 9. But Jandre will try and stay ahead of him and make this last. This race has 16 and a half minutes to go.
As we now see, we have the second machine up and running, so that was able to rejoin. Just in time, so we can see a nice battle for the lead here between Richard and Simone, sorry, Andre and Simone, with Richard right behind.
Dennis has magic fingers when it comes to things happening behind the scenes. And a big shout out to Multiview sponsorship from JU Autos, mechanical workshop and auto sales, and also to PZN panel beaters. Thank you very much. It certainly makes the race very interesting, looking back from the leading car and looking to the front from the car in second position. So the defender and the attacker that we see here with us at the moment, the defender bottom left and the attacker top right. So Simone is trying all he can, all his racecraft, put the car there. Is that going to be a bit of a bump? No, he was actually given just enough space. The Italian flag, of course, flying in the front of that BMW. He puts all the wheels beyond the white line. Not sure how the software is going to be nice to him or not. But in doing so, he loses a car position or two. Chris Collison is very hard chasing in fourth position. He's behind Richard Sillier. He's no longer behind him. He's next to him. This is a left, and he's still next to him, but he allows him to actually get past. So Richard holds on to that third position. That's car number 101, just ahead of Chris, number 22.
I think Jason is driving very angry. He's just at the fastest first sector. Driver can get very, very sped up, I guess you could say, by an incident. So hopefully that's the case. Jason will come through the field and we'll see him. He's got just under 15 minutes to try and catch. He doesn't have that much to catch, 5.8 seconds, so there's still a chance he could be in the fight for the win. Especially if these guys are squabbling at the front here, they're going to be slowing each other down. So Jason could still come back. Of course, he's got his teammate 2 places in front of him. That's going to be the difficult one for him to pass.
The interesting thing is that the cars in third and fourth position have virtually identical fastest laps at a 1:59.8, where the cars in first and second, Jandre and Simone, their fastest lap is virtually identical at a 2 minute and 2 minutes 00.26 or 0.28. So very close to the first and second, but slower than third and fourth.
Yes.
So that's going to mean third and fourth are not going to give this race up by a long way. Julian Brain's in the background there in the distance. The Team High Revolution Racing number 333 in fifth position. Still owning. Fifth position is good points. Oh, there's but too much curb for Simone there. And the car snatched on him, and all of a sudden you see 3 car lengths open up between him and Jandre de Penard. And he'll have to fight that and clawed back one bit at a time, but certainly just one mistake and you could see it instantaneously that the the Italian flag on the bonnet was so far behind that you could no longer see the Italian flag. You just see the blue BMW. But that means that Richard Cillier is now only 0.3 of a second behind Simone, 0.4 of a second behind Jandre, and Chris only 0.3 of a second behind Richard. So first, second, third, and fourth, this is a stunning battle that's raging for the podium plus one.
1.4 seconds covering the top four.
Yeah, that's not very much. And also, as we've seen, keeping in mind that the slightest mistake can cost you half a second and more, things can happen very quickly.
Right, we can maybe just watch as we see the battle for the lead closing up again in the braking zones. Cars hopping over the curbs there, looks fantastic. I've always loved the view back of the car. You can just see how the car is working and bouncing, and the tires compressing and the suspension. It's very, very descriptive.
And you also see when the curves are forgiving and when not. As there you just see the right side of the car lift up slightly, but not viciously at all. Although there is one track, and I think it's at Travazza, that's not so forgiving if you were to use so much curve, or curbing. So we'll have to wait and see. Has Adrian dropped off the server?
Yes, I don't know if he even joined the first. I'm trying to think, was he? I think he was in the race at the start, but he's. You see him move here, possibly?
The road continues to go the way. Well, now it goes to there's using curving and a bit more, which, as we said, that could close you down, but Simone uses the road and a bit more, so that might be looked at by the stewards if you go way off and are deemed to gain an advantage. I think that's the terming they use, not necessarily in sim racing, but I know that in, I'm just thinking now, it was, Jenson Button was overtaken by, I'll have to think about it now, but in doing so, the guy overtaking Jenson Button had gone the whole car off the road, and there's no gravel pits on that specific track, and that went to the stewards, and the position was actually given back to Jenson. So you can't gain the advantage if you've used more than what the road is. So, and certainly Simone has an advantage at this stage. Once again, I'm not the judge of fact. It's just my opinion, and my opinion could be wrong.
And while you were speaking, we saw a pass for second place, Richard getting past Jandre, and now Chris looking for a way past Jandre as well.
So Jandre's just being attacked. He's driving his heart out, and you can see that he's lost distance to his teammate Richard. First and second have separated from third and fourth, so they're almost two separate battles raging at the moment, although they all have each other in sight. And that was there again, the car lifting up on the right hand side a little bit more than what I think Richard would have liked. So is there a change for the lead here? Simone has to defend. They're right. These cars are so similarly spec'd. You see, it might be on the brakes, that there'll be the one on the brakes lunging earlier than the other, and Simone just holds on and puts the car up on the inside of to the left, so that Richard Cillier can't mount a challenge to get past him. Makes the car very wide also through these corners, but that being said, that is the racing line, which is entitled That's Not the Racing Line, but they both went off, so I don't think an advantage was gained at either one or the other, as both of them used more than the racetrack. But Jandre will be watching them. He's only 0.4 of a second behind, and he still could come back and get at them, as also could Chris Collison, who's only 0.3 of a second behind Jandre.
And Jason has got past Julian Brains behind all of this, and he's 3.4 seconds back, so he has managed to actually catch. He was about 5.9 to 6 seconds off the lead. He's now 4.5, so he's definitely catching with these guys squabbling away here.
9 minutes to go in this race, which means it'll be 4 laps plus 1, because they're coming across the line now. So it'll be 4 laps, and then they'll start the last lap.
Right, here they come.
One stage 3 wide there, but Simone holds on, and the PZM panel beaters cars between them occupy the whole width of the road, and I think that's to keep Chris Collison behind, so that Richard isn't attacked if Chris were to get past Jandre.
Right, now into Tosa, I believe, is where we're going to see a potential pass. Let's see.
It's just like a chicane, but Tosa is you through the gears. As I say, the sim that I saw through that corner, they go fourth, third, second, and on the exit they go back to third again. So a lot of, but then again with the paddle shifts, it's not so bad because your hand is not actually leaving the steering wheel, so you can just with the touch of the finger change the gears. I still, and this is only me, I still like the days where you actually had to change the gears. Even if it was only a nudge forward, you had to take your hand off the steering wheel to do the gear change, nudge forward or nudge back. But now, of course, it's just fingertip control right under your steering wheel. You don't have to leave the steering wheel at all.
There are still some forms of racing that use like a column shift or standard shift, like the Aussie V8s or rally cars. They would use it's a sequential shifter, but you have to take your hands off. It's not paddle shifts.
Yeah, so you have to actually, for an instant, I wouldn't say you lose control. You've probably got less control of the steering wheel than what you have now, where you've got both hands fully on the steering wheel. Richard closing right up on Simone there.
Nice battle, yeah. Of course, we have, in the background, we have Chris closing in as well. Looking very, very threatening here. So this is an extremely close battle. The top four currently covered by half a second, 4/10 of a second going the top four.
My goodness.
Side by side for both positions there. Oh, nicely putting in there. You're driving by the top four drivers.
Yeah, I think Chris Collison realized he could venture or attempt it there, but deciding, no, this is not the place. Too many cars around, and he's got fourth at the moment. He might have another chance because we still have 6.5 minutes to go. So, yeah, this race certainly isn't over yet. And any one or more of the three cars ahead of you, is there a change for the lead way there in front of Jandre Dippenaar? It's nice to have the view from Chris because we can see first, second, and third ahead of Chris. And whatever happens there, we've got a view of it. And at the moment, Jandre is in the way a little bit, but certainly all things stay as they are. Oh, and a nice slide going in there is Richard Sillier, but that's going to cost him time. But I think he pitched the car into the corner a little bit fast and then just scrubbed off the speed by putting the car in slightly more sideways than what is good for the tires.
Oh, getting very twitchy there as well. Let's see the front end and the back end moving. And now Jandre is all over him at the moment.
Yeah. And we all know when you do that sort of slide, you put heat into the tires, and they don't like that. So Jandre and Richard into second and third, in second and third. Chris Collison still holding on to fourth, right there with him. 2, 3, 4. Who's caught up to? It's Jason Underwood in fifth position. That's now only less than a second behind the car ahead of him. So
and only 2.4 or 2.3 off the lead. So he's caught up a lot, and he was 6 seconds down. So he's caught up 4 seconds, although he's only got 5 minutes and a bit to go. Fastest lap of the race as well, a 59.3. Sorry to butt in there.
No, exactly what I saw as well. So as you say, he is driving extremely fast. All the other guys are doing over a 2 minute, and he does a 1:59.3. That's 0.7 of a second, 0.8 of a second quicker. Here he comes.
No, this is Chris. This is Chris on the move.
Okay, so Chris is on the move.
Jason's just behind them. We can see him there behind.
Yeah.
He's now right with them.
Yeah. So here they come now. So there's been a change, and that'll mean that Richard Sillier is down into fourth. Chris Collison, number 22, is up into third, but still everything to fight for because 4 minutes 20 still to go.
Jason flashing his lights a bit there.
Yeah.
Going up the inside, is he? Yes. No. A little bit of contact.
He's going to get a nudge and another nudge. So here's a question of A-pillar, B-pillar. I think he's made the pass work. So Richard Sillier now down into fifth position, Jason Underwood up into fourth, and only 0.8 of a second behind Chris Collison. But they are both Team Harder Racing teammates, so I think they will collectively try and attack Jandre Dippenaar.
Right, so it looks like Simone is off at the moment, off in the lead.
Yep.
Now we're going to have to watch and see, is Chris going to come under threat from Jason? I believe he will.
Sliding a bit. Which I don't think is good for the tires. and that means that Jason is unable, although he had the fastest lap, the previous one, I think this lap is not going to be as quick as what Chris Collison was, because he's just made the track a bit longer for himself. Chris attacking Jandre, but then tucks in behind him. Jandre using the road very wisely where he puts the car, but except there, and he's made the pass. So certainly, or has he? No, he hasn't. Was that a nudge? We'll have to wait and see. So Jandre was in second, he's down to third and back into second again. So,
of course, Jason right behind Chris there at the moment, now pulling into the slipstream of Jandre. So Chris goes left, Jason goes right, pretty wide down the straight. Of course, we've got Richard sitting pretty behind them, so if anything happens between these three abreast.
That's what I did forecast, is that the two team harder cars can actually get at him. He can't block both cars simultaneously.
A little bit of nudging
exactly
there.
What's happened. Yeah, and I think they both might get past him. There's a bit of a nudge again and again. So Chris is going to maybe just hang back for now.
And the benefactor of all of this has been Jason, who's now up to second place.
Yeah, Jason's away, but he's 4 seconds, or give or take, behind Simone with 2 minutes 20 to go. So here's the race still on for third position. And that means because they're slowing each other down, Jason Underwood can go off into the distance. And so Jason came, am I correct, Dennis, from 5th up into 2nd?
Yes.
So what a drive he's had, and that's been in very few laps. It's not very long ago that he was still in 5th position, and we were saying how he was battling to catch up to this bunch, until this bunch slowed themselves down to the extent that Jason in clean air ran the quickest lap, and the next thing he was at them, and now up into 2nd. I don't think he's going to attack for 1st. That'll go to Simone. And just have a quick squiz at my race 1 results. Simone he had an 8th in race 1, so he might not be on the podium, but certainly a great second race from him. Although we know there are a few incidents which might go to the stewards, but of course that's just us guessing, or me guessing in any way.
Looks like Chris up the inside.
Yeah, and now he puts the whole car in front of him, so I think that second position definitely done and dusted. Although the number 101 car can certainly come back at him, is Richard still here at Chris Collison. So Chris Collison, here are the two teammates now. So number 9 is trying to have a go as well as Jandre de Penard. So
great battle.
There. Again, maybe they collectively trying to get at Chris, but I think Chris has just made enough of this work to his advantage that he's just got that's a big nudge. Now that was very late on the break, so that's certainly going to be looked at, because that's a race thrown away, because it'll mean that his teammate gets past, and then it's this whole story of, was that really necessary?
At least he did wait for the driver. It's a little bit of a gentleman's code, is if you knock someone off, you wait for them to come back past, so he did do that.
But his teammate is off into the sunset.
Yes.
And then that's, which was something that could always happen, and has happened in this case. But you cannot be held responsible for that which your teammate ahead of you does, although you can have the advantage. And we have 8 seconds over already. So when Simone crosses the line now, he will be the race winner. Jason will be in 2nd. I think Richard Sillier will be in 3rd, Chris Collison in 4th, and Jandre de Penard in 5th. Julian a whole 13 seconds behind them. Then 5 seconds to Brandon. In fact, Peter Marais has gotten past Brandon Robert now. So Peter Marais in 7th. So Simone Botafogo is going to win this race of the BMW Cup here at Imola, race 2.
We have a big battle going on further back between Chris Collison and Jandre de Penard at the moment. So we'll jump back to the leader shortly.
We'll wait and see when he finishes sector 3. But I don't think, but yes, there can be a change here. But at this stage, looks as though
I think we can go to the leader as we see Simone taking race victory, his first victory in the series. So congratulations, Simone. He hasn't done many races. It's also our first ever Italian victor, so congratulations.
Forza, Simone, forza.
And Jason Underwood coming across a brilliant drive back to 2nd.
Yeah, so Jason got, let's just have a quick look back at first race.
Third for
Jason
Richard.
got a fourth. So Jason will more than likely with a fourth and a second, whereas Chris Collison will have a fourth and go back to there, a first. So Chris might be the winner overall for the day.
And a nice battle between Peter Mireya and Brandon Roberts coming up to the line. And Brandon
All the way
Roberts
to
will
the
get
end.
Brandon Roberts will get 7th, from Peter Mireya will get 8th. And we have Andre Hildebrand, who is still in the race. He's had an issue at the start, but he's hung in there.
He's 24 seconds behind on Peter Mireya, who's probably slowed now. So, but he's there to finish. So he gets the points. So if it comes to the season finale, where I don't know if the system discards the four worst races.
It does, yes.
Yes, it does. Okay. So it will be ever changing as we go along.
All
But
right,
race.
we're going to jump to an ad break while I go find the top 3 drivers. So we'll be back shortly.
Right, we'll see you then.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are now live and joined by the top three drivers for the Alwin BMW Racing Cup Round 6, coming to you live, or having come to you live from Imola. We are joined by the top three drivers, which are Chris Collison in first place, Jason Underwood in second place, and Yandre Dupinard in third place. This is our overall for the round. Perhaps we can start with Chris. Chris, you've had great pace throughout the practice in the week. You've had great pace in the race. Adrian seemed to have some good pace, but he wasn't able to challenge quite as much as he would have liked. But a good battle at the front there, but you seem to have a hard second race, but still managing to come overall, getting the first place. But Jason getting the better of some incidents in the race, and Jason having a fantastic second race after an incident. But how was your round overall?
Yeah, well, in the first race, I managed to get in front, and I think what was lucky for me is Jason and Adrian were battling hard behind, so that allowed me to build a small gap and then drive, I won't say within myself, but I didn't have to hit my limits too much because they were fighting. So that wasn't too bad. Managed to cross the line in first, pretty happy with that. Second race was tough. It's hard to get past in these cars, really hard. Even when you do an overtake, the chances are it's not fully clean. You can probably only pull up next to someone and almost hold your breath and hope that it works out. So I tried to be patient in the second one. Didn't work out. The last couple of laps got a bit scrappy. I think it's difficult for people sometimes when you're that close. You can't see braking points, things like that. Very happy with my points total. Congratulations to Simone of our team for his win in the second race. And I think Jason's was a good lesson in, if you have an incident, get your head down, knuckle down, and you can still get something back. And he got a great second in the second race. So, yeah, that was my take on the whole thing.
Brilliant. Very, very well done there. Jason, then to you, you had I'm going to just straight away jump to race 2. You had a lousy start in race 2, knocked to the back of I think down to 7th place at one point. And at that point, just after that, I noticed you sort of got your head down. You straight away set the fastest lap, and I still commented that you're driving angry. You're going to be coming through the field because your gap was only 6 seconds to the lead. And then as things happened at the front and the guys were scrubbing and you eventually ended up in second place, a fantastic drive up to second. Just tell us, how was your race 1 and how did race 2, what was your mindset in race 2?
Well, because of the small grid tonight, there was pretty much everybody on the grid was very quick. So race 2 was just all about being patient in the first couple laps. And then obviously I had a bit of an incident with Richard at the top chicane. And then it was pretty much balls to the wall, really. I had nothing to lose, so I just gave it everything. And yeah, it was just perseverance paid off in the end. But yeah, and then race 1 was also, again, another little incident. But yeah, that's where Mark Mintz.
And just on that, you have actually now extended your championship lead ever so slightly. I believe you had a 3-point lead. You now have a 4-point lead. So you're still leading. Chris is still in second place from Richard Siller in third place.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
And then in third place tonight, we have Yandre Dupinard. Yandre, a rough race in the second race there, a little bit of an incident between yourself and I forget who the other driver was. But overall, good pace tonight. You were at least in the fight for there were 4 of you guys having a really good dice, and we had a 5th place sitting right behind you guys, so it was very, very entertaining. Even though that was a small field, the 5 of you were really having a good dice there. So how was it all from your point of view?
Yeah, the first race was quite difficult for me. I started to get that Oculus Quest white lines again. So it threw me off. But yeah, then I came back to second race. That was a bit better. That incident was with Chris. I already apologized to him. Sorry again, Chris. It wasn't meant like it. Yeah, furthermore, it was a nice race. Nice tight.
Yeah, definitely some tight racing. We saw some fantastic side by side. We even saw the one incident, unfortunately, was when there were 3 guys abreast, and then there was a 4th car that was trying to squeeze in, and eventually someone went off. But yeah, some very, very good racing, and as Chris alluded to, very, very difficult track to pass on. So once you go for a pass, you're going to be side by side for a while. So the guys did pretty well tonight. But Sean, perhaps you have any questions for the drivers?
Just one actually for Chris, as you are the winner for the evening. What I think, and could you just maybe elaborate on what I'm going to ask, is what makes passing, from what I can see on this track, so difficult, is that there are hardly any corners that only have one direction in which they go. It's sets of chicanes or bus stop chicanes or S's, so you might be on the right side of the track for the first portion, but then you're on the wrong side of the track for the second portion. Does that contribute to the difficulty in passing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very difficult to go side by side in those situations anyway. So to get a clean pass, it's 50-50. It really is 50-50, and you just got to try and hold your lines, hope the other guy does too, see who comes out of it the best. But yeah, really, really hard to do a clean car lengths overtake at any point. I found it really difficult today.
And then I'm going to ask, let me ask Jandre. Jandre, from what I could see, I actually had a bit of research during the week, that you only get to fifth gear before Rivazza, and then again as you pass the pits. Are those the only 2 points that you actually get these cars into fifth gear?
Yes. You don't get into 6 gears with these cars on this track.
Yeah. So as I was saying in commentary as well, even the straight isn't straight. It consists of two curves, and then goes into Tamburello. So that makes it even more difficult, I suppose, because you might be in the right position for the 2 curves to the right on the straight, but then you're totally in the wrong place for turn 2 into Tamburello curve. But yes, interesting racing, although it was a small field. Thank you very much to the drivers. Dennis and I had a lot of fun, and we look forward to Road Atlanta.
And also then just a quick update on the team standing. So we still have Team Harder Racing leading the team championship, but PZN Panel Beaters now up to second place. So Top Tech IT Otaku Life has dropped down to third, and then PZN Racing in fourth, and Team High Revolution in fifth. But all right, thanks very much, guys. That was brilliant racing tonight. If we could just have some final words from you guys. So if we could start with Chris, any final shout out from your side?
Just thanks to everyone. Thanks to you two guys, everything you do. Good racing tonight. Tough, mostly fair, I think. And look forward to next week. So roll on.
Thank you very much. And Jason, any final words from yourself?
Yeah, first of all, congrats to Chris for the overall win, and also Simone for your first win at your home track. Great achievement. Obviously all the supporters, and also a new sponsor on board, West Coast Clothing here in Liverpool, that have kitted out our team with some nice clothing items. And yeah, let's look forward to the next one. Thanks once again, Dennis and Sean. Always great to have you guys commentating. Thank you.
Thank you, and pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
And Jandre, any final words from your side?
Yes, Dennis, I just want to say thank you to you for everything that you do. Sean, thanks for joining us every Sunday night to help with the commentating. Thank you. Then to PZN, my team, thank you guys for all the support and every night's racing. Caroline, for the supporters that watch us every night. And then Formula Couriers, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for the clean racing tonight. It was tight, but it was lekker.
All right, thank you. Then I'm just going to drop you guys all out so you guys can go and chat to the other drivers that might be in the group there still. And while you guys are there, Sean and I are just going to say our final goodbyes. And also just to bring up that there are quite a few comments in the YouTube channel. So thank you to everyone in the YouTube channel. Rudy van der Vesthuizen and saying thank you to the great commentating. So pleasure, Rudy. But you weren't here with us tonight. And then we had Wade Roberts commenting. We had Hilton commenting. We had Sean Weber commenting. So lots of other drivers busy having comments there. So hopefully everyone's enjoying it, and just remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this, and hopefully next week we'll have our usual numbers back without the load shedding problems that we had tonight. And then of course, thank you to Alwin Automotive Glass for making all of this possible, and our other sponsors for this particular series, including Top Tech IT and the other few that have helped out from the drivers. And then of course yourself, Sean, with your amazing commenting. So always great to be in the team with you here. And before we go off, I'm just going to then bring up our next round, which for those that weren't aware is Road Atlanta next week. So that should be quite an exciting track for this. I think the final sector is probably going to be where all the action happens. Certainly the final chicane is definitely going to be an overtaking spot on the last lap, as long as there's some guys close enough. So that'll be one to look out for. It's a great track for sports car racing in America. So seen a lot of good racing there over the years, and certainly in sim racing it comes across as a good track. So we hopefully have a good round next week. So until then, myself and Sean, we will catch you guys then. So good night and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.